I want to begin with a simple observation. Enterprise security is well matured today, having more visibility, more telemetry, more automations. Yet deterministic adversaries succeed. So today's session, what I'm going to speak is not about a product pitch, nor it's going to be a discussion about how autonomous exploitations happen. So it is about the capability, I believe, what enterprise security would need in 2030. So as per the theme, Cyber 2030. So it is the ability the organizations continuously understand their own environment from the adversary's perspective view. So today let's explore about how well the ecosystem of the enterprise security have been grown. Yeah. So we could see the breadth of enterprise security programs today. So starting from identity protection, cloud security, application security, we have breach and attack simulations, exposure management, threat intel, modern SOC, XDR, SOAR, and now AI security operation workflows. So here, I'm not trying to state that the security investments on these are not, effective. Obviously, these investments have materialistically, grown the capability of discovery, response, and detection capabilities, and also control validations. But the question here is are these investments, how really it is useful to us? So as we could see, all these capabilities are very efficient with one certainty that all these things looks the organization through its own lens. Say identity, it looks into the prioritizations and access, privileges and the access. Taking cloud security, the focus is more on the posture management and the configurations. When it comes to application security, it is more towards the cloud and the applications. When it is exposure management, it's more on the findings and the assets. So in this scenario, the bigger question what enterprise wants is whether all these single views can it be made as a defensible one view that would help them to plan for the next single validation. So enterprise security, let us see the paradox. So today's security investment has produced more controls, more visibility, more automation, more AI. But yet, as I told, successful compromises continue. So here, I don't come to say that the security tools fail, nor the security team fail. It is a strategic question. What capability that is difficult even in a mature, secure environment is? See, today's product gives much more visibility, much more effective, telemetry. But adversaries, work backwards. So here is where, the two questions arises. So the defenders organizes findings, vulnerabilities, and severities and prioritize it. But attackers focus on one objective: what is the path, the attack path they need to identify. So let's see few of the Indian incidents that span over a period of years. So this is not kind of a reported, exhaustive incident register. I just want to showcase a few issues that have happened across the years. So 2021, Air India announced their third-party passenger system got compromised, which led to leaking of 4.5 million passenger data. And 2022, government announced that AIM's 5 physical servers were being compromised, and for till the period of the restoration, almost the complete workload was happening manual. And in 2024, Star Health acknowledged malicious cyber attacks have occurred and unauthorized access to certain data has been established. And in 2026, Tata Electronics announced that they have went through a cyber incident which was confirmed, but no operations have been affected. So here the range is what the key point. You could see aviation industry, healthcare, insurance, manufacturing industry, different sectors, different systems, different impact. But the point here is I'm not speculating about the what the attackers were, what modus operandi they utilized. The important factor here is these are different impacts, but the true fact was the burden was completely on the defender's decision. So let's get inside the incidents differ, the decision repeats. So here I'm not trying to state only these 4 themes are the root cause for the current attacks or compromises, but enterprise would really understand that these are the core recurring area which we really need to observe, where it comes to identity and access, third-party dependencies, exposed applications and APIs, privileged controls. So these are the core areas which frequently get compromised. So here the message is the center block, the context, evidence and reasoning. So context is about what the asset is surrounded, what assets are surrounded around about, and evidence is about what is the observation done, and reasoning is the connection of these two to plan the next safe validation. So the recurring challenge is about connecting these signals fast enough to decide what to validate next, so that we can avoid adversaries or conditions that may change. So let's get to understand how a campaign works. In an adversary perspective, see, we need to clearly understand none of the compromise initially starts with the exploitation. So it's any adversary, it starts with a mission and a period of understanding. So it's very clear that exploitation is late. So an adversary initiates a target, identifies the relationship between systems, prioritizes attack paths, and then validate their assumptions before even they perform any kind of execution. So it's very evident that exploitation is late in the sequence. So here, like when it comes to defenders, the whole objective differs. Like we go through the set of logs, alerts and assets, but attacker's focus is very simple, and his objective is only on the attack paths where he wants to execute the exploits. And here the sequence is about understanding is the foundation and exploit is the only possible action. So the numbers here, what you see, it's are illustrative, just for the slide perspective. So let's consider a security team has identified 53 internet-facing systems and 27 critical CVEs. Let's say 412 identities and 31 APIs. So what you see here are the numbers, and maybe for sure the security team, the numbers what they have, it's 100% absolute, and there may be no change in it. Whatever the list might be the right, but the problem here is whether it gives what would be the next decision. What will it stop the adversaries, gaining access to these assets? The problem here is, like, as the defenders, we keep, collecting all these data, but the adversaries has only one question: which one path advances the objective? So that is where, the reasoning question comes in, and no other inventory question falls here. So basically, the visibility is not the only solution in the current situation. So speaking here on the visibility, getting deeper inside visibility. So these are the three separate, these are the gaps which I like to emphasize on. So first is context. So basically, the context gap is about the assets, identities, cloud apps, and exposures live in different systems. And the second gap is evidence, where reconnaissance, validation, research, and reporting remains disconnected. Reasoning. So the gap is analysts still decide what matters, why, and what to validate next. So in current scenario, so basically we do have context, we also do have evidence, and the reasoning is completely put on the analyst, memory. So basically, a single analyst or a group of analysts have all these reasoning within their memory, but bringing inside a single desk is the complication. So technically, the reasoning gap can be easily, managed by using artificial intelligence. But the important stuff is here is how we maintain the traceability of the context and evidence. If we maintain the traceability of the context and evidence, this actually brings us a better walkthrough for the reasoning process through AI. So this would be the next evolution. So here there will be no more scanning, not more dashboards, not more alerts. The future would be more of continuous adversary reasoning. So when I say continuous, it doesn't mean that continuously attacking an infrastructure or an environment or doing an adversary reasoning, continuously attacking an infrastructure. And so here the continuous is about more of performing a reassessment on the model, what we have identified from the context and the evidence. And adversary reasoning is becoming obvious when we have the context and the evidence in place. So the reassessment is more on getting more reasoning data where we understand what would be the adversary's plan moving ahead. So here now, I'm setting up a very clean statement of what AI and what policy controls would do. So AI can really help on correlating discovery data. It can rank the prioritization or ranking and prioritization of the assets can be done. So it can interpret the evidences that is being collected. It can also recommend and advise what solutions has to be taken care. On the other end, on the right side, what we see is the boundary that is being set. So the policy controls should include scope, request, evidence, and acceptance. So here, we have a trust factor that is being built where the human will be always in the loop and AI is not allowed to perform any attacks or even say a specific to state that this is a proper vulnerability. But human falls inside the complete judgment to say that whether it's a vulnerability, what would be the next action the AI or the system should take forward. So this is a new operating model, what I would propose. So here, it is not like the legacy scanning what we do, where we start with the observation of reconnaissance and directly end up with the reporting. So instead, here, as per this operating model, we build the discovery process through reconnaissance and candidate these data to segment it into two different models, that is the safe validation and manual research. And further, performing this safe validation and manual research, we correlate the data, enrich it with AI, and a plan is being built instead of a stable report, what we usually have. So here, traceability is the trust layer. As I mentioned, we need to have the traceability across the complete life cycle. Yeah. So BugD OSP, so BugD Offensive Security Platform, that is the OSP, and C is the Community Edition. So this is technically an evidence-led planning for authorized offensive security research. So this is one of the research I've been doing for the last 6 months, and this been planned for open source maybe in a couple of weeks, a month. So basically what BugD OSP does, as I told, there is no autonomous exploitation, there is no brute force, or there is no active, threat simulation against an environment. So basically, here it is going to have two work queues, as I told, like the safe validation and the manual research. So I'll give you a detailed brief on how it is about. So basically here what happens, so this is the architecture. So basically we have a written scope of the environment, and then the written scope will be pushed to the reconnaissance process to collect the discovery data, and then we have a stable inventory. So this stable inventory will be labeled properly with a tag, and then we have the candidating process. The candidating process is to build and check what are the policy bound statements being given across these assets to identify on what category these has to be put. So then we do the validation. So validation is again the process of validating these endpoints that is being discovered, and then it is being put on to manual research. Manual research briefings will be drafted, and then correlation of the safe validation and the manual research briefings will be done to build the offensive security plan. So these are the two key answers which which actually answers different theme over here. So speaking about safe validation, so what actually safe validation does? So let's consider an web application. So here, like what safe validation done is, it actually goes through, while it goes through the candidation, it goes through a policy walkthrough where it understands what are the list of assets that has to be tested without doing an active intrusion or active engagement within the infrastructure. So it is basically bounded, as I told, it's bounded observation policy approved now. So basically it means that these set of assets that is listed after the candidation under the safe validation will be automatically tested and the evidences will be captured. So technically, to give an example, so it will be more of a get method which will not create any kind of havoc within the infrastructure. And getting inside the manual research, it is more about the identities, roles and sequence where human judgment will also be involved. So where live intrusions would fall in. So here what we do is we build manual research briefs, so which will be tagged under MRT, so these tasks will be prioritized and to the researcher to perform the next set of access. So here the overlap is valid. So maybe the safe validation can have the same assets as well as the manual research will also have the same asset. But the overlap is valid because both queue doesn't fall back, because there might be a need for the researcher to plan the safe validations. So as I told, so this is the human governed validation, which is almost being automated through the safe validation process. As I mentioned, the methods, especially gate and head only, will be captured automatically, and the exact scope when it is being produced, it stays within that boundary rather than going outside the boundary. And so specifically whatever that is being placed under safe validation will not go for a redirect follow, because it might lead to a next level of intrusion by the AI. So here the guardrails have been very well maintained so that AI works more on reasoning and human works more on the implementation process. So before getting inside the demo, let me give you the process, what we're going to see inside the demo. And especially inside the demo, I'm not going to give a feature explanation, rather than giving you a proof of concept, like how this complete flow works. So basically here, we are going to initialize the target, and then it is being pushed to reconnaissance. As I told, the AI assisted candidates will be done. So here we emphasize is on assisted, not on AI. As I mentioned, the whole process works through a specific policy bounded ground. So then we do a dry run safe validation. This is to ensure the list of assets are purely non-intrusive, and it can process an automation process, and then it goes through the proper safe validation. So the dry run is to ensure that the safe validation can be executed without any kind of manual research assets being collated to that. And then the manual briefs initiation has been done to the same set of assets to understand, what would be the security team or the researcher's activity to perform live intrusions. So then we correlate these complete traceability data and build the offensive security plan. So for the live demo, I've done a pre-recording, like, it might take long, so I've done a pre-recording here. Okay, so here I'm using the Juice Shop, a vulnerable web application. So you can see it's running on a Docker and the site is live. And then I'm getting inside the BugDiscover directory, checking the service, platform service is running. Yes, it's running. I'm also checking the AI health. For demo purpose, we are using the Olama and Quen model, which we have designed for this specific purpose. And then, as I told, we are initiating the target named conference demo, and the target boundary is being set there. And once it has been initiated, you can clearly see a specific workspace has been created for this target. And it also gives the current status, like the pending is on the discovery process. So here, like, we are initiating BugDiscover, the conference demo, which is the target name, and it initiates using multiple open source, discovery methodology. So once it is done, we could see what is the total final URLs, assets, categorization has been done. And as you could see, the output paths are being saved for traceability. And then we actually get inside checking the status to ensure the recon process is done. As you could see, like, the discovery is done now. So now we are getting inside candidating the target. So we already have the complete asset visibility. So candidation process has been initiated only for a limit of 10, so that, like, we have, quick output here. And so basically you could see it requires AA, so that the candidation process will be done with an AA assistance, and AA is not doing the candidation here. So once the candidate is done, you could see, like, we are then doing the validation dry run. So we are not doing the direct safe validation. So we are doing a dry run to ensure the candidates listed are non-intrusive, and it's good for a complete safe validation, which would do the automation process. So once the safe validation is executed, you could see, like, the tags have been created with SVT. So these are the identifier for the safe validation tags. So once the safe validation is completed, we can initiate for the evidence. So technically, on initiating the evidence, you could see evidence screenshot. So here, like, the screenshot is 0. The reason is, like, I would have been shown below the details. So more of the details here are on APIs and authentication rules, which actually doesn't require a screenshot capture. So here the system is designed to make sure that, it takes only valid screenshots of the pages. Otherwise, these evidences will be stored as HTTP responses. So then we initiate the manual research of the target, and you could see that AA enriched briefs are total of 10, because we have initiated for the 10 total assets. The whole orchestration is designed, even though we have 187 assets, it automatically queues and prioritizes as per the state of the assets. And so here is what the traceability works. So here you could see I'm doing the correlation of the safe validation and the thing. So here you could see the total relationship is 5. The relationship is 5 between the MRT and the SVT, which we have already collected. So then we jump inside to initiating the offensive security plan for this. So this is the report what is being generated. So here you can clearly see, like, we have 10 correlated assets, 10 assets in both queues, that is safe and also the manual validation. And the citations are automatically created with the evidences to go back and check, which asset and what is the attack path. And prioritized actions are being listed out for each of the assets that is being listed. So each asset, like, as per the category it falls. So AIR is the A relationship that is being done. So, yep. So here we have the researcher work queue. So this will give the researcher the decision what they need to take, especially what would be the suggested directions. And following to that, we have the more detailed next actions. Yeah. So we have the detailed research sections for all the 10 assets. So here we get the complete details, what was observed, what is the prerequisite, what would be the next actions, and what would be the stop conditions and evidence gaps. So this is the process, what I'm trying to showcase, what we need to plan moving forward. So here, as you could see, this report, it does not give what is the vulnerability status. Instead, it actually gives us a complete plan and a walkthrough and an view about the whole aspect of the environment. So, yeah. So here, I think I explained on the report part. So this would be, the future, continuous understanding is the resilience advantage. So periodic assessment should change to continuous adversary. Visibility will change to reasoning. Reactive will change to predictive decisions. And siloed will become evidence linked. So I would like to end this the session with saying attackers do not begin with exploitation, they begin with understanding. The future belongs to organizations that continuously understand themselves before their adversaries do. So thank you all, thanks for the time, and I'm open to queries. If you have any queries, you can reach me out. Any queries? Sorry? Yeah, this is built on a LLM. So as I told, it's still under research. So we'll be publishing it soon. Yeah, so as I very well clearly told, AI is used only for assisting. It is not working as an agent to initiate all these activities. So AI has its own way to assist on the offensive security plan rather than, performing any kind of attacks or intrusions. Maybe regarding the model, we can discuss offline. So any other questions? Okay, thank you.